All right, so as a buzzing um, social business bee, as I've been in the past, there is something, and perhaps it's this Gemini quality that I have, or like an air sign quality to begin with. But I'm familiar with the buzz of certain scenes. I guess I said business, but it could be music or whatever it is. There's buzzwords that go around, and as most people know, picking up these buzzwords and using them tends to help you in conversations. And in fact, there's a lot of areas like within or perhaps right on the outside of um, specific bubbles or pyramids within nodes within society ultimately, where you are rewarded just by saying the buzzwords. Even if you don't know what the hell you're talking about, you do know what the hell you're talking about if you just know the buzzwords. And um, especially one kind of people who are highly conscious of this are people who really highly value competence in specific tasks, like so those kind of managers and definitely those kind of workers. Um, they are bothered by other people not having any competence. They can see their lack of competence, but they hear it in people's words that they can say this or that or pick up on whatever trend it is, 4D printing and XAI and shit like that. And there's like entire managers, not the highest of managers, because the highest of managers do have to have a stroke of genius to really know what's going on behind beyond buzzwords. But we all know, I think, that there are a certain amount of people that exist within all sorts of environments. I'm sick of giving Bose this free advertising here, although L1 is an awesome speaker. Anyway, I'm not going to miss it. The Bose L1 speaker, the Bose L1 it is so lightweight and you know, it's just a great thing. I don't know why people have been jugging around these big ass speakers for so long to all these shows that don't exist anymore because COVID-19 and the Great Reset are upon us. Anyway, what was I talking about? Buzzwords. Like COVID-19 is like the biggest buzzword of all, and everybody knows it. It's the common conversation that the tech world and a bunch of other worlds were looking for. And the Great Reset is catching on now, especially now that Time Magazine has published something about the Great Reset right on the cover of their magazine. That being said, I've heard that they do some multi-marionetting to different parts of the country in their publications where they use a different cover for different parts of the country. There's either a mirroring or a differing of controlling perception. And that's something that they have not done before, but it's a huge trend, and I call it multi-marionetting, and no one else is going to use that word. And I'm going to tell you why that's cool, which is the reason I started this video. There are the buzzwords that actually go around, and you can use those all day, and you'll be able to be among the buzzing bees, but they ultimately don't mean anything. One thing that's cool is, like, for me here, I use my own terminology. And I publish quite a lot of material, and especially in music and now in video, as I'm working towards doing more of that. Sometimes I'm just like crying and like, oh, my upbringing sucked, and I'm in that kind of mood. But I'll try to be honest about like all these different moods that I'm in, because it's not just this excited about ideas mood like I'm in right now. It's not just a runic state of mind or an Adasian state of mind, perhaps, or a Kuritarian state of mind, which is pure buzz. What was I getting to? Oh yeah, I think I'm having the epiphany right now that I can really unveil a lot of my ideas and even some of my secret ideas that I'm working on. No one's going to know what the hell I'm talking about because I have so much interpersonal intrapersonal jargon, I would say, or these things that I've used in my own lab or in my own experimentation, in my own notes to describe certain processes. So it's like I'm naming new kinds of processes, and in some situations I'm probably actually naming new processes that nobody else has named before, but in other situations I might just be naming things that other people have named. So it's a dialectal thing between different environments. And in those cases, sometimes it's better to just accept the buzz, because then if I say it, people know what I'm talking about. But one thing that this vlog, or whatever this is, covers now is I can publicly unveil everything I'm doing, and there's this kind of like secrecy aspect to it that I used to have, that I'm realizing that I don't need it, because if anyone is really interested in what I'm talking about, they can comment and I will tell you what I'm talking about. And if anyone is not interested in what I'm talking about, they're not going to get hung up on a whole bunch of buzzwords that will like unveil what I'm actually into, because I'm mostly dealing with spaces, liminal spaces, like and areas where people aren't doing too much warfare. At least that's what I'm trying to get to. I love blue ocean. I don't natively enjoy conflict, so I'd rather be out on scouting delta growth curves. So that's the buzzword from, what's that dude's name? I'm a little out of practice with this field. The Mormon, you know what I mean. Clayton Christensen. That sounds like a sports player. Christensen. Anyway, I wish I knew how to pause this thing and bring it back, do some research. Anyway, I didn't mean to use somebody else's term. But yeah, a lot of the terminology I have is stuff that's been grown up from a long time ago. So I am losing my inhibitions about sharing certain things, because another thing I'm realizing is, like, almost in a certain sense, as it is said that a language is a dialect with an army and a navy, that's kind of what we're moving into all the time. If you have the same terms, or you're using the same words, you might be going to war, especially in a time like this. So if I say like COVID, and then it's like ultimately this collective conversation, and then I have some kind of opinion about it, and like some people will be like, why aren't you focusing on the health part of it? Or why aren't you focusing on the power part of it? Why aren't you focusing on the Great Reset part of it? Why don't you, whatever? It's all these things in once, because it's a common conversation, and it has a lot of meaning in it. It's ultimately, when it comes down to it, it's meaningless, and it moved very quickly into, I don't want to say pure simulacrum, but ultimately we're talking about a event that's too big to understand unless we were the author of it that laid down all of the dissemination from above. And even if that shit is all public, which a lot of it is, it takes a long time to collect from a lower position in hierarchical society. Even if we're moving from, or supposedly moving from, normal traditional organizations to DX organizations, or digital organizations, or whatever, tribal, nodal, communistic organizations, or you know, I don't mean to use the word communistic, because I don't know that's exactly what it is, but it's ultimately still a pyramid, because the people building it are still an eye above it. It's like they're not including themselves in this traditional hierarchy, which is still there whether they like it or not. That shit is always going to go on. Please show me that this Aquarian New World Order doesn't involve any of that. I highly doubt it. Am I still in track here? Yeah, anyway. And also the multi-threading in my conversation. I don't know if I'm going to get caught in anything. So it's like, what am I scared of being caught on? I guess, like, in a business sense, if you are sensing that there's going to be any competition whatsoever, you will anticipate that it's good to hold a little bit back. You know, your unfair advantage in a lean canvas sense. Your unfair advantage is the thing, you might be overpowered at it, but it might be an overpowered competence, but it also might be a secret that you have. And if you told people what it was, you'd lose your competitive advantage. That stuff happens all the time, especially from people who end up habitually in the beta growth curve. I'm still trying to figure out this dude's name. Clay Christensen, not Clayton Kershaw. Hold on, Clay Christensen, Clayton Christensen. Yeah, that dude. Check him out. He's interesting. He's got some good moral teachings, and then he goes like hardcore into business and economic trends and shit. Yeah, it's hard to I suppose, especially discussing ideological territory with neologisms, ideological territory with new terms that are not yet buzzwords. Like someday something I say could end up being a buzzword. I do find myself to be an originator of terms at times. Like if I'm working for my own corpus, my own personal mythology, tons of neologisms there. But on the other hand, sometimes I can go into full buzzword territory, and when I'm doing that, sometimes I'm just getting around. Like I'm using the buzzwords, and I think a lot of other people might be too, to travel. It's like if I say, give you this kind of trend, 4D printing or something, I'm really just moving a conversation, and I'm like taking a trip from here to there, and it's like handing you a ticket. Oh, you heard of that? Then you might be, and you might be into this project, and I'm going to introduce you to this person, and like all sorts of windows and doors and third doors open up there just by having the buzzwords, and that's something that it's like I think I had pretty much, or an outstanding amount of, especially because of my scattered thought process, that I'm interested in a little bit of everything, that I had a lot of success in more managerial administrative pursuits where you can just use these buzzwords and be genuinely interested and cover a lot of conversational territory, and you'll cover a lot of territory on foot. At least it's the way it used to be. Now with this big tech matrix, maybe it's not the same way, which would really suck because the real world's still there, man. But I think really what I want to talk about is these core concepts that I still have that even from 10 years ago or whatever seem to be describing territory that I don't think anyone's talking about yet. I haven't found anyone talking about it yet. And I think that's generally a good, in a certain sense, it's a good good sign, because you're not simply following a trend. There's something homegrown about you. There's that quality of like, if I don't do this, nobody's going to do it, and that's like there's a kind of responsibility in that I find that's higher than anything that could come from the outside world or suggestions from other people. There used to be like a family conscience or like a tribal consciousness or something, but now it's hard to trust any of that shit. One because I've had enough separations from those groups over the years, my family over the years, whatever it is. But also now, in a world, especially during an election year, the social prescriptions you're going to get, it's like advertising for shit that's not going to make you any better, and it becomes more and more obvious. So there's got to be an inner-directedness, and there's got to be something that really goes beyond skill assessments from the outside that are just trying to tweak you into these certain boxes, and now they're just make you try to feel really good, because one tactic that's been found out in development of skill assessment applications and personality typing, things like that, all sorts of applications like that, is like make the person feel good, cater to their own narcissism. Everyone's looking at their own face all the time, make them feel like they're a saint and the next Jesus, and the potentially the next president of the United States, and like super good looking and super kind and empathic and low in narcissism, even if they're super high in narcissism, and all this shit that's like, it makes you feel good. All this stuff is built in to individual experiences. You need something beyond all that, and I see, even in people who are higher up in trying to use algorithms for skill assessment of human beings, the whole thing is getting messed up because none of these things actually lead to inner self-assessment that happens offline most of the time, and often in the past. The past is something that is actually very powerful now, because the past is way less diluted by technology. So if you have things from the past, we would call this radinlel, past redemption or time redemption, finding things from the past. For example, I have these old writings from the past. Before the internet was so high resolution, there are some writings here that talk about kind of like some of the exact situations that we're going through right now. And I may have hit on some universals, or it may have been just really obvious stuff back then. We're too distracted from it now because we're dealing with all this multi-marionetting, and we're in the middle of a cultural revolution worldwide, especially in the United States, that is not bottom up in any way, how it might have been at the beginning of the 1900s, maybe, kind of. It might be that way on foot, but not in its conception. And I suppose in the early 1900s it wasn't like that anyway. Did I cover enough topics? Did I confuse people? I'm trying to give you all of my secrets. I couldn't give away my secrets if I wanted to, because I don't think you get it yet. But one of these days, I'm going to say something that really hits, or you're going to realize that somewhere in the middle of all that stuff, you've been set free.